that was humorous to me. And it did have me thinking about how, the guys who really love applying that alpha label to themselves really do seem to be the people who are most prone to peer pressure. Welcome back to the Mindfully Masculine podcast. This is Charles. In this episode, Dan and I will be diving deep into White Lotus Season 3, Episode 5. Things are getting incredibly tense, and we're exploring the shocking displays of masculinity, both healthy and otherwise. We'll break down the surprising effects of peer pressure on even the most alpha of men, analyze moments of profound hypocrisy, and react to those truly bizarre personal revelations that only the White Lotus can deliver. Join us as we unpack the layers of control, vulnerability, and raw human behavior in this must-listen episode. Stick around.
Good morning, Charles. How are you?
I'm well, man. How are you?
I'm also well.
Having a good week?
Yeah, very productive week.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you helped me move on Saturday, and it's been fairly productive ever since. I've gotten quite a bit done, and my space has recovered from the move. Everything is back where it should be. Let's jump into our discussion of the White Lotus Season 3, Episode number 5. A lot happened in this episode. A lot of the, and watching this over again, I almost feel bad for how bored I'm getting of the three ladies and their story. I feel bad, and I mean, to their credit, I watched some interviews by the actresses, and Leslie Bibb, she was like, compared to what else is going on, our story was kind of boring.
Of course, but I think having that helps you see it's a place to compare it to.
Behavior doesn't look extreme unless you can see it next to sort of Samuel behavior.
Exactly, because most of us have had that experience of those ladies. You're on vacation. Yeah, all right, you're not maybe fighting amongst yourselves every 5 seconds, whatever, but at the same time.
But there might be some tension.
But you're doing what they are going through, right? You're not, most of us aren't going away to go on a meditation center, right, or are going on like luxury yachts and living this type of life, right? So I think to have that there, it was really important for White to do that so that we can go, okay, this is what normal level is. This is what normal life is. That still exists in this White Lotus
universe. Yeah, I like that. And it's also, I think it's probably easy to identify with, where a lot of people have been on vacations with their friends. And I think those three ladies do serve some archetypes of, okay, she's the one that has to be the star. She's the one that has to be the planner. She's the one that is a little judgmental. And I think most friend groups probably have some of those components.
I was watching when they do the interviews with the actors at the end of it. Mm-hmm. At the end of this episode, they basically talked. It was the three ladies, and they were talking about how White came up with the idea. He was sitting around, and he was at next to a table of three ladies. And when one of them would get up, the other two would talk about the other one when they would leave.
Interesting.
And then when she would come back and the other one would leave, the other two would talk about that girl who just left. And so they thought that was very fitting for these ladies.
Yeah, and that is not an exclusive behavior to ladies either. I mean, you and I have been out, and you walk away, and holy shit, the stuff I say about you.
Yeah. Well, I know,
man.
Yeah, I've heard.
You have?
Yeah, because that's not how it's supposed to work. When you leave, the guy that just starts talking shit about you. So, like, you would not believe what he just said about you.
I probably would. Yeah, but that's there's in the best case scenario, it's not critical. It's more like, oh, he seems to be doing okay after the breakup. I thought he'd be in a lot rougher shape. It's nice stuff like that, not like, you believe him, that kind of stuff. But I'm sure, depending on who your friends are, it's probably a mix.
Right.
Ideally, you would like it to be the complimentary or caring, compassionate talk about you when you're not there.
And I think that was good the way they did that. They made it entertaining because they did a little of that passion, but then it would slide into, well, she did just drink a whole bottle of wine.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, here comes.
It is a nice mix. But yeah, and they bring a little bit of so in this episode is the Full Moon Festival, I believe it's called. God, that looks, I could never. It
looks so much fun.
Oh my,
holy cow.
I would kill myself.
Oh my God.
So terrible.
I almost want to take a trip now to go.
It looks so miserable to me. Oh, I would be locked in my hotel room. I mean, I was watching and I thought, this looks as bad as Times Square on New Year's Eve. I would never.
Oh, I wish Times Square was that much fun. Oh my God.
Have you done it?
Yeah, I was in college. It was a nightmare.
Yeah,
I will never do it again.
I couldn't imagine ever doing that. I think Renata told me she did it once, and she said the way you do it is you get a high floor hotel room in Times Square and you just watch it from your window.
When you're a college student, you really have access to do it. That most of us anyway. Yeah, they blocked off. I mean, probably 10 blocks around Times Square at like around the afternoon. And the problem is all the businesses and restaurants, they like close down or close their doors. So there's nowhere to go to the bathroom. And this was, I mean, again, this was 30, it's about 30 years ago.
Holy cow.
So yeah, I mean, I was probably 21 at that point. Wow. And yeah, they didn't think of having bathrooms for all the people that they might have porta potties now. Because
I would think now they would have like the trailer style ones where you have like 5 or 6
yeah, I would think maybe they do, but we were standing there in the freezing cold, and of course we brought drinks with us, right? So there's nowhere to pee except right there. So you kind of in the middle of the crowd, you'd basically just kind of squat down, take a piss because you couldn't go. Where are you going to go?
Oh my God.
And you're standing there. You had to get there at like in the afternoon, and you do a little math. Midnight is a few hours away. And you're staying there freezing, and everybody's like drinking.
I had no old people just peeing on the street. Oh my God.
I just did not enjoy that at all. And unless you get there like almost in the morning, you can't even see the ball because all the buildings are covering where the thing comes down. Yeah. So you can kind of hear everybody scream, and you can see the lights coming from behind the building of the ball when it's going down. Like at least that's where we were. We couldn't actually see, or maybe like a couple of the little shiny parts of it.
How miserable.
It was. You're right. It would be amazing from a high rise. Amazing. It'd be beautiful.
And probably
I'd absolutely do that.
Yeah, super expensive, but very nice.
Yeah, and there's no place to move. You were like really like locked in there. So that full moon party, I mean, people were like moving around, right? You were like able to walk on the street and stuff and move around and dance. Like you got no.
I wonder if they shot that during the actual full moon festival, or were those all extras? Was that all staged for the show? I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing I've been to that's sort of like that was going to see Groundhog Day in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Where I got there early enough where if I wanted to, I could have gone very close to the front and been like locked in right to see the groundhog come out of the thing. But as soon as I got there, I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to lean against this tree. I'm going to be way in the back where I can walk to the restrooms. I can walk to the coffee state. They had coffee and donuts and hot chocolate and stuff at this little snack bar. I was like, I'm going to hang out in the back here.
Yeah.
And I've got still pretty good vision. I can see what's going on pretty far away. And I feel like I'm still in the middle of everything. I'm at the park where this whole event's happening. But if I need to go get a cup of coffee, if I need to go to the bathroom, I don't have to say, excuse me. I can just walk straight back there. And it's like, I still felt like, okay, I am. And then at the end, it's you stand in line and you get to walk through and pose with the groundhog and take your picture of that stuff. So it was great. But I thought, man, I would do something else like this if I could, as long as there's a way for me to scout out a place where I'm there, but I'm not in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. I would consider doing it. So
that's why you pay for the VIP whenever you go to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I remember even going to like Halloween at Thornton Park. It's like, yeah, I want the VIP.
Yep.
I'll pay $60 so I can sit on a folding chair whenever I want to. I can walk around, I can see all the costumes, see all the events, and then go back to my little area and sit in my chair.
Other than
got my phone.
Other than Podfest, I think buying the VIP has always worked out for me.
That's true.
And it's always been valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what these fellows are going through. We'll start with our friends in the Ratliff family. Yeah, Saxon is still saying some real interesting stuff. And yeah, he talked about how, God, he was saying stuff about how, I think he said people, but I think he was mostly talking about women. He's like, these people just, all they want is to just be used.
Yes, that was his, right. Let me tell you a little secret of life. It's like, people are just waiting to be used.
Yeah, holy crap.
Meanwhile, right, it cuts to the scene of Chloe and Chelsea talking about Chelsea being upset that Rick isn't responding.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, and basically Chloe's like, what do you do? Why do you care about him so much? Right. And she's like, well, and I think they're also talking about how Chloe or Chelsea's a romantic and doesn't want to cheat on Rick.
Right.
And then Chloe's like, well, my modeling days, I knew all the girls who were romantic were either broken hearted or worse. Right. And she said, well, what's worse? Right. Yeah. But it kind of proves Saxon's point is that Chelsea wants to be used by Rick. Rick doesn't really want to use her, but Chelsea keeps like basically wants to fix him. Like that she wants it to be used. She's putting up with all his shitty attitude and his right.
Yeah, but the way Saxon said it, it's so aggressive, though.
It fits his character. It helps build his character. Right. It's not the right way to say it.
Or the character who he thinks he's supposed to be.
Right? I think the correct translation came from Piper later on when she's talking to her parents. Yeah. And she's like, I want to go to this meditation center so I can figure out what my purpose is. And that's kind of, I think, what Saxon is saying is he wants to help. Secret of life is if you help people can figure out what the purpose is, then, it's a good thing to do. It's a stretch.
That is a charitable interpretation that I think is over the top.
It absolutely is. But the point is, it's like, I think people are a little bit lost. And if you can help give them a purpose, not use them, but give them a purpose, whatever that might be.
Yeah, I would say people want to be, people want to be useful, but they do not want to be used. And just the way that he said that was like, oof, man, it is. Yeah, yes, I guess let's get into, number one, I thought he was very judgmental and very anti-MDMA, which is interesting for a perpetual Adderall user to be so judgmental about MDMA, where it's like
the hypocrisy comes out.
Yeah, it's just another nod to his hypocrisy, especially for people who have either used drugs or know about drugs or know anything about drug addiction. It's like, okay, well, most of the ecstasy that you get on the street is mostly Adderall. So for him to be simple, uppity, and high and mighty about it,
I am the drug,
is especially funny. It's like looking down your nose at people using ecstasy. It's like, you have an Adderall script, so you're basically taking ecstasy every day when you go to work. And I thought that was just humorous for him to be so like, oh, I could never, and then he ends up doing it anyway.
Yep.
Which, yeah, it's interesting to see. It's interesting to see the effect of peer pressure on men who consider themselves to be so alpha. It's like just a little bit of a nudge, and they're so
really, dude. And they may have said it 4 times, and he's like, okay. But yeah, what did he say? Try not to take advantage of me. And then the girls laugh like, oh, yeah, we'll try.
Yeah. That was humorous to me. And it did have me thinking about how, the guys who really love applying that alpha label to themselves really do seem to be the people who are most prone to peer pressure. Where, I mean,
interesting,
not to toot my own horn, but I've been out, I don't think ever with you, but certainly with Rob and with other friends, where somebody was trying to get me to do something I didn't want to do. And I was like, you can keep pushing if you want to, but I'll ruin the night for everybody else before I do the thing you're telling me to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know better. Yeah. I will not do that.
Yeah. And
because I had friends who would do that would push me and stuff. And a lot of times I'd give in guilty, but then I didn't give in all the way. And then I was resentful. Yeah. And then I wasn't in the moment. Like it would be like just going to a bar that I didn't want to go to because, and listen to a DJ I didn't want to listen to. And I would just go because everybody else was going. And I would end up not enjoying myself. And then kind of not ruining everybody else's time. They were good, but they did their own thing. They were happy doing their own thing. But a lot of times I feel like, I would have been happier just doing my own thing, doing something different.
Yeah.
And not presenting myself in that negative light. It took me a while to figure that out.
Yeah, it's so funny. There's a certain type of girl that I have had many interactions with whenever I tried to go as a younger man to downtown Orlando with my friends, where if I was in a place that I didn't want to be, and it wasn't like, oh, this is torture. It was just like, okay, we can go. And ever since the BlackBerry, I think it was before they even started calling them the Curve and the Bold, the old school BlackBerries, you could still get on the internet and sort of play on your phone. You get to Google, you could do stuff like that. And I would just do that. Like I was scrolling on my phone before it was cool.
Okay.
And it's still on trends here. But there's a certain kind of intoxicated girl who like would immediately find the guy in the group who didn't want to be there and be like, what's wrong? You look so sad. Oh. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm just chilling, just relaxing a little bit, just looking some stuff up. It's like, you don't look like you're having fun. It's like, and so, yeah, they would decide it was their project for me to have fun. And it's like,
the Chelsea of the group.
kind of, yeah. It's like the end result of this is not going to be you making me have fun. It's going to be me making you miserable.
She's becoming more Chelsea. You're becoming more Rick.
Exactly.
Not a good
But
combination.
if I were you, like, pull the ripcord on this right now. Because if you're drunk, you should be having fun, not talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why I got into that, but about the peer pressure where, Saxon did not take much of a push to do drugs. And then Lachlan did it. Like he jumped in with both feet. He was like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to see what it's like. I'm going to drink. I'm going to do ecstasy. I'm going to have fun. Mm-hmm. And he was not really open to the negative peer pressure of his brother. So it was kind of interesting where it looked like Lachlan had more of a will to do what he wanted to do that night than his older brother did, which is kind of indicative of the person who is curious and open to experiences versus the person who feels like they have to play this character. It's like, as soon as there's a little bit of pressure or discomfort, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna roll over and go with the flow, where Lachlan didn't do that. But so, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about what went on. That was in this episode, right? Where they hooked up with the girls, or did we see all of that?
No, they started it. Okay. So they were all in the bedroom. Okay. And so that was right before Chelsea and Chloe had the conversation about cheating on their old guys. Right. Okay, and so Chloe's like, let's just bang it out. And Chelsea's like, no. I don't want to hurt Rick. I'm a romantic, and that's
right. And then Rick didn't respond to her text or whatever, or call or text or something.
Well, that was actually before. I think that was at the party, and that's when she came in. She's like, "I'm ready to have a good time," and then that's when they all dropped the episode.
Okay, gotcha.
So then afterwards, they go back to the boat, and so they're all 4 sheets to the wind or whatever, right?
Feel that,
and so the four of them are in bedroom together.
Oh, that's right. They play the game and they get the brothers to kiss each other.
So first the girls kiss each other.
Yes.
And then they're like, the girls signal to the guys, okay, you guys got to kiss each other. And they do that. She does I think it was Chloe does a little hand signal like that, right? So the guys, they do that. It's a little peck on the lips, and then they back off. And the girls are like, what? That's it? They're a little upset about that. And then that's when Lockie goes in, basically, for a longer, deeper kiss with his brother. And the look on Saxon's face afterwards, like disturbed, just like shocked. And then they show the girls, and then you got to look, if you get a chance, go back and look at Chelsea's face after that. She has the best expression about like, what the just happened? Chloe's laughing her ass off or whatever. And then the next scene is Lockie taking a huge drink from the bottle, like almost in victory, like, yeah, I took you down. Because if you remember earlier in the show, when they first started taking the ecstasy, Lockie and Saxon were talking, and basically Lockie's like, "Oh, I can handle this. I'm a senior." He's like, "Yeah, in high school, dude." And then eventually he's like, "One day I'm going to take you down." Like he said that to Saxon, and I think that was Lockie when he has this real like I accomplished something look in his face after that kiss, and he's like drinking the bottle down, and it was just clearly. That was him saying, "I got you."
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there probably is something in that character of, okay, look, dude, you have gotten off on making me feel uncomfortable my whole life, and now we're gonna turn the tables. I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable. And it is interesting how Chloe, she seems to be into being the instigator and pushing people, making them uncomfortable, using them for entertainment. And
there you go.
Yeah. And then basically doing to Saxon what he said he gets off on doing to other people. Like
good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seemed to be, she was the one in control of that night for those four.
Oh, for sure.
She was the one running the show.
Yep.
And
she was influencing Chelsea. She was influencing Saxon. And Lockie was kind of going along.
Lockie was like the least influence. He was the one who was doing.
He didn't need to be convinced.
Yes, he was kind of just doing what he wanted to do. But yeah, and not saying this with any judgment, I guess, but
you're allowed.
I can't imagine a quantity of drugs that would get me to cross some of the lines that these,
like
there's stuff that would never occur to me. Like if I was with girls and they're like, hey, kiss your buddy, like, no, like, oh, but it'll be fun. Not for me. Like,
for who?
Yeah. Like, yeah, it'll be cute for you to watch and you can giggle at it, but it's not going to happen. And I can't, I mean, I've never taken tons and tons of drugs to the point where, I mean, I've never drank enough alcohol where I blacked out and like my memory stopped recording or anything like that. I've never had that experience, but with me, it's like, okay, I had 2 drinks and I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home and take a nap. That's enough of this. But I can't imagine on psychedelics or alcohol or uppers or downers or anything. I feel like I've got some pretty firm walls of what behavior I would look at as being fun or worth engaging in and what I would not. And so smooching a friend or certainly a brother for the entertainment of a couple of cute girls.
Yeah.
I like to think that would never occur to me. Again, I can't say for sure, but it just doesn't feel like,
look,
yeah, I think most people that get drunk or party or whatever would say, yeah, there's just some stuff I'm not going to consider.
100%.
And most of them, I think, probably have a pretty good handle on what those limits are. So the question is, how does that happen? How do you get talked into that as these 2 characters? Is it because of a trauma history? Is it because of weird sexual repression in their house? Is it because of being, they're both such approval seeking people that I don't know, but it's interesting to watch and it's interesting to say, oof, I don't think I would ever.
Right. I mean, that's the difference is they were kind of showing their background, their history of their family upbringing where sex was so taboo and sex was so, I think, handled awkwardly. That
but
I think it lends itself to say, and the way the brothers were kind of interacting with each other when Saxon was talking about how am I going to masturbate with you in the room and walking around naked with his brother in the room. I feel like, and talking about how hot his sister was, like I feel like sex was already a weird thing for them. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that they might be open to doing something like that in that situation. Whereas like your identity is, I just don't do those things. Like I'm not a smoker or I don't do this.
Yeah.
For them, that didn't exist based on what we knew.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird that as a Southern U.S. family, they're not overly religious, especially based on the discussions about going to that retreat center or whatever for a year. They're not overtly Christian. The dad, Timothy, mentioned being an altar boy, I think, when he was younger, which is interesting because, I mean, altar boy is not exclusively Catholic, but typically Catholic, which I would have, I mean, and maybe this is a little bit of shortcutting on my part. Just by listening to the accents they were putting on, I would have assumed Southern Baptist or something like that from the family, not Catholic.
Well, she even said that when she was having the argument with Piper, and Piper's like, oh, yeah, she's like, it's a cult. She's like, there's a billion people in the religion. She's like, it could be a cult. And she's like, Christianity or Catholicism is a cult with deviant sexual behavior.
Right.
So
yeah, I guess maybe Timothy. So I think that maybe Timothy grew up Catholic. She didn't. The wife didn't. Yeah. It might have been that's what was going on.
Yeah. Because he was singing. If you they look almost like an Irish or a Gaelic type of, which they're all Catholics, right? Most stereotyping, right? But yeah, so yeah, I think you're right. I think he grew up Catholic, and she's probably a Christian, but
not that Christian.
But not that Christian.
Yeah. And it was interesting when the mom said something to Piper about the values we instilled in you. Piper's response is basically, what values? So yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a family where the conversation of, hey son, here's our daughter, here's how you find the strength to do the right thing when it's hard to do the right thing. That does not seem like the kind of conversation that family ever has with each other. And that's interesting because I mean, that seems like one of the most foundational conversations you would ever have with your kids is, okay, look, you're going to be in situations where you're tempted to do something you know is wrong. And here's how you find the strength to not do that. Here's where you do the difficult thing because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I think they were trying to get that same effect without putting in that type of work. When the mom was like, hey, we gave you these values. Why are you throwing them away? Like, why you basically go into this meditation center for a year? And that's when she's like, yeah, well, I don't want any part of all the bullshit like Saxon. Right. Like I don't, which is, I guess, the privileged life and things like that.
Yeah, I think that's a result of having kids, and it's really easy to tell your kids how to behave. It's a lot harder to model good behavior for them. And I think if anything is a epidemic in America, it's parents telling their kids to do the right thing and not modeling the right thing for them.
Yeah.
And so that seems to be, and that really crosses all the socioeconomic lines. It's way easier to tell somebody how to behave than it is to show them how to behave.
Yeah. What I've heard in the past from someone said, basically, kids will model what you do, not what you tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. And modeling positive behavior is hard. I mean, you've got to change your identity, change your daily practices, your habits.
And if to think about it too is, how many times are you communicating that behavior if you are doing it? If you're modeling it, probably multiple times a week, a day, a month, whatever that is. Whereas when you tell somebody something, it might be once or twice, and you're also not showing them how to do it. So it just logically just makes sense that, yeah, you're going to pick up that communication from watching somebody do something a lot more easily than if they're actually telling you what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think you're seeing kids come of age where they're developing autonomy and they're developing the ability to make their own choices. And you've got parents who expect, okay, they're going to follow the values that we told them that we've had. And then it's like, okay, well, you didn't actually teach them those values. You just talked about the values that you wanted them to think that you had and you wanted them to have when they grew up. But you didn't really teach them. So they're going to do what they do.
Right. And where do most kids spend most of the time is online, watching people do things on YouTube or social media. So they're going to model these people.
Right. Or best case scenario with their actual real life friends, but it's certainly not with their parents.
But I mean, how much time do they spend with their real life friends versus on screen devices? So yeah, they're going to try to, that's why so many kids these days want to grow up and become YouTubers.
Yeah. 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 It's
right.
It's stressful watching this family. I mean, it's tough seeing the choices they make. And we'll get to Timothy right now where, I mean, I don't believe he receives any external communication during this episode.
Nope. I think it's the first time.
Yeah. It's all him just kind of mulling it over in his own head and hearing that stuff, basically, I'm sure catastrophizing the situation, given the worst case scenarios. And
yeah, this is the one where it opens up and Guy Talk sees that Tim is the one who walked into the
he sees the security. Yeah, that he took the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, well, and then he got Guy Talk trying to figure out how to respond to this situation.
Yeah.
And I think he's not making the best choices. Because he's trying to cover his own butt while he tries to also solve the issue, where the move would probably be immediately go to your boss and say, hey, somebody came in and got the gun. I know exactly who it is, and we have to do something about this.
Well, but the thing is, though, he's already kind of in trouble.
I get that.
So
you're gonna be in a lot more trouble if a guy steals your gun. And I mean, because Guy Talk's got no reason to think this guy might be suicidal. All he knows is there's a guest who stole a gun out of the security office. And I mean, you've got to assume that is a pending emergency.
Good point.
He's going to kill his wife. He's going to kill.
Right. Why would you take the gun?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, making the leap to, he's probably just going to shoot himself. It'll work out.
You didn't take it to target practice.
Yeah. No,
the archery range is closed. So, he's going to go and shoot.
Yeah. So that was another way that, Guy Talk went down a notch or two in my opinion, where it's like, you're going to let this situation develop for a minute longer than it has to because you're worried about your job or your reputation. That's insane. This is, you've got a guy who stole a gun. I mean, you've got to assume that's countdown to mass shooting.
Yeah.
If you're, and I mean, again, think of those bodyguards that he was so willing to talk trash about them to his girl that he's got a crush on, you think they would have gone back and forth over how's the best way to? No,
Oh no!
I would have kicked down the guy's door,
basically, yeah,
held him down while they searched the place to find find the gun that he stole. Right. And that's kind of what you got to do when it's your job to protect people.
Yeah, not like, I think you have something of mine.
Right, exactly.
And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he walks out of the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. That was so. Yeah, at this point, Timothy's got a gun and he is descending into this spiral of suicidal ideation at the very least. And we see him getting to the point of writing a letter, a note, and having the gun right there. And then he gets walked
Victoria
in.
walks in.
Yeah,
right.
Victoria.
He had the gun to his head and he was about to press the trigger. He's about to shoot himself. Like he flinched to practice. And I remember seeing, she walks in right before he actually pulls it.
Yeah.
And then he like shuffles all the stuff around and tries to hide it from him.
Yeah, which, I mean, I can imagine that, I don't know, if you watch it on HBO Max, do they do any kind of a disclaimer about that? Because
no, only for the flashing lights.
Interested. Because I could see somebody, either who's had their own struggles with suicidal thoughts or lost a family member. I mean, the way they handle it is pretty traumatic, which it's very dramatic too. It's very effective, but it's also like, it's kind of upsetting to see any character put a gun to their head. I mean, that is, and there have been movies like The Deer Hunter where like you see somebody actually kill themselves and it's like, ooh, that is jarring. That is, and I don't have any real direct experience with that myself, but just seeing a character in a movie put a gun to their head is pretty, that's off-putting. That's like there's something primal about that. Is like that I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think she asks him, hey, why are you up? He's like, I can't sleep. And he's like, you know what kind of pressure I'm under? And kind of reveals like all the pressure that was building up to him actually wanting to kill himself. And she's like, what are you talking about? You have everything.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, I can think of that as that is a mode of comforting people that I've made the mistake of. When somebody's having a hard time, it's very easy to fall into that trap of, oh, let me convince you how your life is better than you think it is. And that is not what people need. What people need is for you to just sit down and be with them while they experience those feelings and just sit there and go through it with them, not try to talk them out of it. And the stakes are so, I mean, when somebody is that distraught and they think about killing themselves, that's when, you need to be better and better at it. So, I mean, if your wife or girlfriend's having a bad day, she doesn't want you to talk her out of her feelings. But if somebody is, she does not know exactly what's going on with him, and it's not her job to read his mind. But when you see somebody, behaving in ways that they don't usually behave, that should be, again, if you're not addicted to lorazepam and kind of in your own world, and, it's a lot easier to see what they're going through. But he is displaying behavior that seems like it is very atypical for him, and people that, I mean, his kids are picking up on it a little bit at least, but she seems to be like completely oblivious to what's going on with him. And then when he reveals any of it to her, she immediately wants to talk him out of it.
You shouldn't be stressed. You've succeeded in every way.
Yeah. I'm reminded of the too blessed to be stressed.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what an effective thing to tell people. Drives me crazy. Okay, let's talk about Rick and his really normal friend, Frank. Tell me if you've had this experience.
No, I have not.
Wait.
Next topic.
Wait for me to tell you which experience. It's interesting growing up in the church and being fairly involved in it, and then going to Bible college for 2 to 3 semesters. I met a lot of people who came to the church through different ways from me. Like I kind of grew up fairly religious, fairly Christian-y, and had Christian parents and was surrounded by Christian friends and Christian subcultures. And it was a very easy progression to go from being a kid who was a Christian to a teenager to a young adult, and went to Bible college when I was 18, I guess, and met a lot of people like me that grew up in the church. And then I also met quite a few people who were non-traditional students who basically had like a conversion to Christianity later in life after they had hit some rock bottoms, and met a few guys who gave up their addictions to sex, drugs, alcohol, rock and roll, petty crime,
all the reasons to live life. Yeah. Okay.
and
Keep going.
and found themselves in Bible college looking to become ministers. And there were quite a few of them that.
And that's what Bible college is for. It's if you're
yes.
You wouldn't go unless you wanted to become a minister. Is that correct? Or would you go for
no
some other
the small ones, like the one I went to?
Yeah.
Like I believe the only degree offered was Bible.
Okay. So
and they had different. You could have an emphasis in Christian counseling or an emphasis in youth ministry, but
this is if you're going to make this part of your career.
Yeah, like you're working in a church or a church's school, or you're looking for a career that is at the very least church adjacent. You're not.
Yeah.
It's not a Christian college that also offers accounting degrees. At least the one I went to was not like that. Yeah. It was like you're going there because you either want to marry a preacher or become a preacher of some form.
Okay.
And so, but I met some guys there who.
So at some point you thought you were going to be a preacher.
Yeah. I was.
You neglected to mention that. Okay. I had to put the math together there. I never thought about it.
It didn't take long for me to be disabused of that notion.
Okay.
And now the first year that I went there was the first year that they were accredited by SACS, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, which meant credits that I got there would transfer to state schools, community colleges, things like that. The year before I went, they were not accredited. So Valencia Community College wouldn't really care what you got from that Florida Christian College because they didn't see it as a real college.
Now, did that matter to you at all?
Yeah, I only went because it was accredited so that if I decided I wanted to pursue something else, I wouldn't waste my time and money.
So you already were coming into that.
Yes.
Kind of hedging your bets.
Like, I think I want to do this, but I'm not sure I want to do this.
Yep.
So
hey,
I can't go someplace where I might be wasting my time.
Yep. Same thing for me, college. Yeah. I think so. Most of us were like, yeah, we think we want to do this. And then once you start doing it, you're like, maybe not.
Yeah. So anyway, to get back to it, there were guys that traded their previous addictions for drugs, alcohol, petty crime, being a bad dude. Their new addiction was talking about their former life and how much better they are now than they were back then. And when I watched Frank and Rick have this discussion, that is what I was reminded of. And I've seen a little bit of that with my exposure to like 12-step recovery groups. There are some people that are there to do the work, and there are some people that are there to talk about themselves and basically get a captive audience where I'm in this room and people have to listen to me. So I'm going to take advantage of it. And so that was the feeling I got from Frank when he was talking about himself and his journey.
Yeah.
It was more of, because it's weird. Some people feel tempted to over disclose and talk about things with people who are not ready to hear the things you want to reveal and are not interested in hearing the things you want to reveal, but you kind of steamroll over them to reveal your truth to them anyway. And I felt like that is what Rick was going through when Frank, it's like, Frank is sharing this because he feels like he wants to or needs to, not because Rick needs to hear it. It felt selfish to me.
Yeah. I think
it was an interesting story, but just like you're putting somebody else through this without asking them if they're ready, like not preparing them that they may hear some shocking things. And it felt like an inherently selfish act on Frank's part to dump all the stuff on Rick.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. And I know, I mean, I've been guilty of doing something similar where I've talked about it, and more so, it is a little bit of a selfish act in terms of trying to reconvince or keep convincing yourself that this is the best course of action for you at that point.
Definitely.
And it's less about the other person and more about you trying to talk yourself into it again.
Yeah.
Or remind yourself. Yeah.
So let's get into it. So I got the impression that Frank and Rick had engaged in some capers together.
Good word.
Or hijinks. The result of which led Frank to have to flee the United States and live abroad where there's no extradition treaty. So I got the impression that he's in some kind of legal trouble, or at least a complicated legal situation. That's why he's in Thailand. And he talks about getting there and having what I guess you would call a fetish for Asian women.
And no job and a lot of free time and some money.
Yes. He seemed to no commitments, nothing tying him down as far as seemingly work or family. He was there and he could do what he wanted to do. And what he wanted to do was party and have sex with Asian girls. And so he then gets into revealing that over time started to feel like an empty pursuit, which I can understand that.
Yeah.
But then that led to him exploring some other options that were a little harder to identify with, which is one of the things I've talked about on this podcast before. And I've said before, for some reason, the concept of privilege can sort of set people off. Like, ooh, I feel like if you talk about me having privilege, that makes me feel like you're attacking me or you're devaluing the adversity that I've. Yeah. It's like, okay, but here's the thing. My status as a straight white dude has never made my life harder. I've never felt like, oh, this bad thing wouldn't be happening to me if I wasn't a straight white guy. And part of what I felt when I was hearing Frank's story was like, man, I'm so lucky that I've never felt confused in that way where I've had to go on this journey of experimentation to try to get down to the bottom of why I was doing the things. And maybe it was fun for him. Maybe it was cathartic for him, but God, it felt very complicated and very like, I'm just glad I've never had those kinds of deep questions about my identity where I felt like, okay, I've got to go through and do some deep experimentation to really feel what it is that I'm coming from. And I feel like that's lucky on my part. Yeah. I don't feel like it's better that I haven't had to go through that, but I do feel like, okay, some dice were rolled on my behalf before I existed. And those dice came up to say, Charles is never going to have to see if he needs to pretend to be an Asian girl to experience what that's like. Yeah. And it was just like, man, that like, I hope obviously he's a fictional character, so I don't care about him, but for the people in real life who have had to go through something like that, I have empathy for them. Yeah. Because it feels like a really complicated, troubling thing to experience, to be like, I'm not sure why I'm doing these things and I want to get to the bottom of it. So now I'm going to engage in clearly risky behavior. I mean, I'm not okay calling what he did morally wrong, because as long as he was doing it with people that were appropriate age and mentally able to consent to it, have fun, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Yeah. But certainly risky behavior. I mean, when you're paying people for sex or paying people to have sex with you, I mean, that's when things can get a little squirrely. Sure. So yeah, I feel like, wow, what an experience he went through. And yeah, just dumping it on Rick. It's like, Rick's got enough problems. He doesn't need, things like this dumped on him without some sort of a heads up of, hey, I've had kind of an unconventional experience the last few years, and I'd like to tell you about it so you can sort of see where I'm coming from. Are you up for that? Well, that seems like the kind of thing you would say.
Right. Well, so I think Frank took the opportunity when he ordered the chamomile tea, and Rick goes, chamomile tea? And at that point,
yeah, there's Frank, like a chiming board.
Right. Yeah. Frank was like, oh, well, let me tell you, like, and obviously, like, you don't need to go there. Well, he started out, I've been sober for 10 months, and then it proceeds to he just kind of goes and goes and goes.
Now, here's my story. Yeah. My conversion to Buddhism story. Right. And that focuses much heavily on my private sex life. Yeah. And me doing things that, I mean, he's got to know Rick well enough to be like, okay, Rick, there's a good chance Rick is not going to identify or understand this. So maybe giving him a heads up of where this conversation is going to go would be the kind thing to do. Yeah. And, but again, I feel like it's easy to trade one form of selfishness for another. And you can be sober and you can be celibate and still be a selfish person who gets off on weird things, like sharing these personal conversations with people in public. Mm-hmm. And yeah, and the actors involved did a great job of selling how weird of a of a thing they were both experiencing during this conversation. And yeah, Sam Rockwell was amazing. And Walton Goggins, I mean, just like, yeah, I told you this morning, every reaction shot that they switched to him, his mouth just got more and more open as he was hearing more and more stuff.
Yeah. And I think he did a great job of representing what most people would be feeling in that situation, watching that scene. So if we were Rick sitting here listening to what Frank was saying, I think our facial expressions would be right on par with how Rick was reacting.
And to Rick's credit, he was not reacting with offense or disgust or judgment. It was just like, okay, you're throwing me some curveballs here, and
Correct. He did a great job.
Yeah, I cannot identify with what you're talking about or what you're going through, but I'm also not going to be like, ew, gross, how dare you, what's wrong with you, anything like that. It was he really focused on the shock and not the which I feel like I'd like to think I would behave the same way. I'd like to think that I would be less shocked if I heard, a friend I hadn't been in contact with tell me the story.
Yeah.
Like I'd like to think I could come at it with curiosity. Like, okay, you're sharing something with me that I can't identify with. I want to learn more about what your experience was. But, if I was on some sort of a vengeance vendetta that I was in the middle of getting ready to ask you to help me with, maybe I wouldn't really be on top of being the most curious and empathetic.
Yeah. I think part of the reason why Rick was able to be that way is, like you said, he was friends with Frank for a long time at that point.
Yeah.
And so if somebody you haven't seen in a while, and clearly like Rick almost was like warm and welcoming, like the first time we really saw him.
Yeah. He lit up when he Frank more than Chelsea by a lot.
Exactly.
Now, was that because he was counting on Frank being able to, like, Chelsea was an obstacle to getting this business closed?
Maybe.
Where Frank was an accomplice? I don't know.
But I don't think he was thinking of him as an accomplice at that point. I feel like he really legitimately said, hey, it's good to see you, man. And there was more there that I just want to use you to serve my needs there. I really felt that way coming from Rick's Walter's performance as Rick.
I felt like there was a lot of, okay, finally, I've got a touchstone to my past. This is a guy who's going to be able to help me put this issue to bed. I feel like there was a lot of that too.
It could have been.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, he was also friendly with him.
He was friendlier than we've ever seen him throughout the entire series.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was interesting seeing him a little bit lighter and a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
and so I think
then Frank took it away from him.
Right. But like you said, I think that made it a little bit easier for him to be open to what Frank was saying, as shocking as it was. Whereas so many other times when Rick was engaging with strangers, like on the boat with the rat lifts and then on the yacht, and just basically where he was just a complete asshole to these strangers and they were being friendly to him. So I think he definitely would have been very judgmental and very disgusted if he didn't know Frank at all, from like a hole in the wall, and some random guy, some drunk in a bar starts
that's true,
telling him the same thing. He'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
exactly.
Right? So I think,
but I think he did handle it similar to how I would have liked to have handled it if I was in that situation. Again, I would have liked to not had my mouth just gaped open the whole time and not. But I probably would have.
It still wasn't a judgmental gape.
Agreed.
It was offensively judgmental.
It
was judgmental, but not.
He was like, really? He said really a couple times.
Yeah.
I think I would have probably been a little more direct and been like, if you start a conversation with me like that, I would at some point very early on, I'd be like, okay, are you bullshitting me right now? Or are we having a serious conversation?
Right. Yeah.
And I'd want to say it in a way that I was open to either one of them. But it would also be like, hey, I'm sending the message that you're telling me some stuff that's pretty outside of what you and I have ever talked about in our friendship.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here. Yeah. Either you're screwing with me and that's fine, or you're telling me something serious and that's fine too.
I think Rockwell did an amazing job of maintaining the proper expression on his face when he was telling Rick these things. Like he was almost like zoned off into his own world. If you look at his eyes and his face, go back and watch that. She's experiencing it right then and there. Absolutely. That's why it was such an amazing scene.
Yeah, it was
for me.
And it was so surprising. It came out of nowhere. And I watched that episode, I want to say the Monday morning, like early Monday. That's when I usually would watch any of the big shows that come out on Sunday night. I don't stay up and watch them Sunday night. I watch them Monday morning. And the internet was going pretty crazy about Rockwell's monologue in.
Oh, I didn't look at that.
Oh yeah. It was like, people were like, wow, that was something. And yeah, it was definitely interesting to watch. Yeah. I do wonder, again, I'm always skeptical. Like, okay, how much of that was there an unhealthy need that Frank was trying to meet by bearing his soul to Rick? Or was it really just, hey, we're two friends, we're catching up. I've had this transformational experience and I want to share it with you because we're friends. And again, maybe it's because I'm a bit of a cynic. I felt it, and because of some experiences I've had, I felt like it was more of a, hey, I want this opportunity for performance, and even a little bit this opportunity of control. I'm gonna drop these bombs on you, and I'm going to feel important and in control of the dynamic by dropping this stuff.
Yeah.
And and again, that could be all me reading into it, but it might be worth looking into, seeing if Rockwell or Mike White gave some interviews about that and see what they say.
Oh, I'd love to hear some of that.
Yeah, I'd like to hear. Yeah, I'd love to hear what Sam Rockwell, like how he attacked that performance, like how he came into it and how he decided what level of direction he got from Mike White, or if he kind of just,
how much was written? Was any of it improvised?
Exactly.
Holy cow.
That would be interesting too. So I may do a little bit of research after we record this to see what's out there about that.
Yeah, let me know.
The last thing I wanted to say was, man, Valentine and his friends just, God, I feel like I would be so annoyed. Like, I would turn around and leave if I was in a small group where those guys were in it. Just like everything about them felt annoying to me.
For me as well.
Just everything was so performative, and it's like, okay, guys, we're on. This is, it just felt like it was some sort of an improv crew, just like trying to put on a performance of just three Russian dudes hanging out in Thailand, and this is what we're supposed to act like. And not to say it was poorly written. I don't think that it was, but I think that those guys exist, and they would annoy me in real life.
Yeah. If
I had to hang out with them.
Right.
But thankfully they weren't looking to hang out with dudes like me. They were looking to hang out with those three chicks, and good. The girls seemed to be having fun, at least for most of it, until the girlfriend or whatever showed up and started the fight, and we're all like, okay, I think we need to go.
Yeah.
The big takeaway,
if you look at the girlfriend and the group of girls, they look almost exactly, they're very similar looking, the three of them, just Russian versions of them, but like the way they were dressed, their haircuts, a lot of the facial structures looked very similar. It was probably purposely done that way.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, those guys just felt exhausting. I could not imagine being around dudes like that.
And I think if you've ever, I've been on vacation a couple of times when I was single and going out to places. And if you meet random people, like beggars can't be choosers, like those were the only guys that the girls were going to be able to hang out with. So yes, they were a little bit annoying, but that's kind of what happens, right? These aren't like your long-term friends that you grew up with or whatever, that you get to pick and choose. It's just like, oh, you're willing to go out and hang out, and you've got some good qualities. All right, I'll kind of deal with it, right?
That is,
and I'll make the
that is insane.
And it drives the urge to consume more drugs and alcohol to be able to deal with the situation. Also, so just let you know, it's happened to me.
The idea of talking to strangers while on vacation just blows my mind.
Well, that's where the substances come in.
I guess
they help loosen up.
That's good reason for me to not take any drugs when I'm on vacation. I might end up talking to people. Yeah,
is that in the book that you're about to read?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a short book.
I can't imagine. I don't think on any of the solo trips that I do, it's hard for me to think of any person I talk to on any of them that's not paid to talk to me.
I thought you said you didn't buy prostitutes. What?
No. I'm talking to cashiers. I'm talking to servers. I'm talking to Uber drivers. I am not talking to anybody for free, and they're not talking to me for free.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine me enjoying it anymore if I was, maybe I don't know, man. It's hard. Am I an extrovert or not? It's tough to.
There's also a different dynamic if you are. I don't know if you've gone out like on a vacation, a trip with like a group of people or a group of friends or whatever, and done like an excursion, or an overnight, a couple of nights, whatever, where it's just about partying and having a good time. And there's a group of people between social pressure, being in a new place, looking to explore things. And this is all when I was much younger, obviously, but that dynamic isn't very far from what actually happens.
I mean, I've gone to Vegas with my buddies before, but
okay. All right.
You know, when it's time to go to Ghost Bar or something like that, it's like you guys are giving up premium tourist poker time where you could be getting money from dumb kids from California, and you want to go to a club? No, I'll be at the poker table. And so I don't know. I guess I'm built different than certainly the kind of people that they make resort-based television dramas about.
Right.
I mean, I would not be entertaining on White Lotus because I'm sitting in my room, I'm sitting at the pool, I'm sitting at the beach, reading a book or talking with the person that I went with. I'm not plotting on getting the guy that, killed my father.
Yeah.
I'm not letting snakes loose. I'm not talking about the 2 years I thought I was an Asian girl. I'm not doing any of those things.
Well,
I'm not going to the Full Moon Festival. I am built different from, and that's why they don't make TV shows about my life.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. If there's a TV show about your life, there's probably a reason.
Mm-hmm. There's probably consequences.
And so, the kind of vacations I go on, they're not making TV shows about. And let's knock on wood, keep it that way.
Okay.
All right. So next week we'll talk about episode number 6. I can't believe there were only 8 episodes.
But so much happens in each one.
Yeah, especially the last one. Mm-hmm. I mean, they wrap up. There's so many things going on. It's like, how are they going to wrap all this up? And they do. And but 6 and 7 are also great episodes. So we'll talk about those next time. I think we went a little bit longer than usual, but good stuff. I will chat with you next week on episode 6, Dan.
Sounds good, man.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Mindfully Masculine podcast. We covered a lot of ground in the White Lotus season 3, episode 5, from confronting uncomfortable truths about masculinity to shocking personal revelations. Next week, things only get more intense as we dive into episode 6. We'll delve into how the already high tensions between the brothers reach a disturbing new level, and another male character faces a dark escalation in his internal struggles. You won't want to miss our breakdown of these compelling and unsettling new developments. Tune in next time.